We'd like to welcome everybody to our meditation talk. We basically sit here on the meditation mat after meditating to talk about some of the things that we encounter when we're searching for peacefulness or silence. The Buddha found many things when he first sat down to meditate. His mind was not empty, just as ours are not empty when we first begin to meditate. In emptiness, I do not mean to be empty, for there is always consciousness, but for that consciousness to be untroubled. That is the emptiness. That is the emptiness that we are searching for in meditation. And really, it is the thing that we stumble upon while searching for calmness that needs to be cared for. And these are the little thoughts that we have while meditating, the pressures or the desires that kind of put conflict on our desire to sit still and meditate, or to do other things in life that we consider healthy or positive. We are often opposed by our own energy. And really this is a natural thing, but it's something that can come to an end through meditation, because these energies are all us, but all us faced in different directions in a sense. You know, part of us enjoys sitting around doing nothing, or another part of us enjoys meditating, right? And unfortunately, both of these states of mind can occur at the same time, and meditation or the sitting still gets in the way of television time. So these two components begin to have trouble. So there are many ways of approaching conflict, and meditation is a way of experimenting with oneself on how to solve conflict. I know that when I first started to meditate, I keep saying that my concept of peacefulness was really just to be silent, and so I was looking for kind of that sunny beach kind of outlook, you know, where it was just quiet and peaceful. And into that peaceful world that I was imagining kept coming my thoughts that I was getting upset at. And it wasn't until I stumbled upon how to handle that it began to kind of calm down. For the longest time, I pushed my desire upon that part of me to be quiet, and I would stifle it or push it down. And but like all things, nobody likes to be pushed around too much, and that part of us is us, and we know how we handle being pushed around, and that part of me fought back pretty good. But it wasn't until I began to realize that I should be offering that part freedom. The freedom to be on its own journey, because that journey came from somewhere and has value, just as my journey has come from somewhere and mine has value. And that I realized that really by offering freedom to these components that we don't understand, it ends our ability or our desire to dominate them and to make them listen, which is one job we no longer have. But it also gives those aspects of our consciousness that are not listening freedom. The freedom to act any way they wish. And sometimes we don't like to give ourselves freedom, especially those parts of us we don't trust, or those parts of us we don't understand. And you know what happens when we give something freedom that hasn't had it for a long time? It begins to overreact, right? And that scares us too, because when we give that little part of us a bit of freedom, it begins to overreact like a kettle that's bubbling over too fast, and we get, oh my, you gotta put that back in the box, right? But no, go past that. Use freedom to deal with those parts of ourselves that we do not understand, and those people on the outside that we don't understand. And what happens is that once that freedom, that initial bit of freedom is burned off, we can begin to ask those parts of our consciousness, what kind of a person are we now that we are free? Now that we are free to act any way that we wish, what kind of a person do we want to be really? I know we've been dragged around by these narrow ways and these narrow thoughts and kind of selfish ways of thinking, but really, if we have complete freedom to live any way that we want, which way would we want to live? And invariably the answer is always the same. We do want to live in a loving, kind, beautiful way. That's how we were built. But we are stretched out of shape by the way that we think about things. We're stretched out of shape by our desire to inflict our opinions on pre-existing pathways of others. And when we don't get our way, we become frustrated and angry. We become bitter. We become jaded, and begin to want to give up. But think about it. Given freedom, what kind of person would you want to be? What kind of person are you really on the inside if you were completely free, had no worries, right? You would be a helpful, loving being that you really, really are, right? That's how things work. So the lesson today really is that to get that kind of freedom up here, we have to give freedom to all things. And that giving freedom to all things cannot come with fear, because there will be an overreaction. When you give a child too much freedom right away, he goes crazy, right? But eventually he gets used to it, and then he becomes the normal child again. And that's how we work. So we should practice giving others freedom, and you will see that it will free our minds. I know that the teacher used to always say when I was struggling with meditation, he would say, "What are you seeking?" I said, "I'm seeking to be peaceful. I'm seeking this." And he said, "Well, what do you think the Buddha sought when he meditated?" After all, when he sat down, he was already at a state of peace. He said that the Buddha sought nothing in meditation. He sat down silently, quietly, observing freely, with love, all of the pathways that he could feel within himself and all the pathways he could hear outside of himself. He gave all these paths freedom to move at their own speed, to learn at their own pace, and to come along in their own way, trusting that they were beauty, kind of tied up, but they were beauty. And if you gave that beauty enough freedom, it would untie itself from the negative ways that it has adopted. And when we really think about it, these negative ways that we have adopted come because we are fighting for freedom, right? It's how we fight for freedom. And when we give freedom to all things, we will get that freedom, and we will no longer be able to have to act in a way that would be in our minds improper again. So it is the giving of freedom that allows freedom to exist. Again, thank you very much. I appreciate you coming to listen to this video. It might be a little bit repetitive on the word freedom, but anyways, that was our message today. We ask that you do subscribe if you find these beneficial, and the next time we get the urge, we will sit down on our meditation mat and explain a little bit more about the Buddha and his thinking. Thanks again, and namaste.